Magomed Ankalaev versus Aleksandar Rakić, UFC 308 on the main card. Let's get right into it, guys. This one's perplexing, and I've kind of avoided making this video because it's just first of all, does any of us really know how this fight's really gonna fucking end, right? It's so up in the air. Ankalaev, he's so inconsistent, but yet so dominant. And then you have Rakić, who is the definition of inconsistency. You know, Rakić is coming off of his knockout loss to Yuri Prohaska back at, UFC 300. And before that, that was his comeback fight. He took over a year off after blowing his knee out in the middle of his Jan Blachowicz fight. And before that, didn't fight for a long time after I think it was his either Thiago Santos or Anthony Smith showdown. So, he just hasn't been very active, and his last two fights didn't end very well for him. He looked really good in the Prohaska fight early on. I mean, he was just putting work in on Yuri, but the gas tank went out, and I think that was just a fact of his inactivity. And I'm happy that he's kind of done a quick turnaround from UFC 300 to UFC 308. Yeah, he got finished in that fight, but now that I like the fact that he's coming back relatively quickly since UFC 300. And going against Magomed Ankalaev, who's coming off of his knockout victory in his rematch with Johnny Walker, he's the clear number one contender right now, as is. But the UFC, man, for whatever fucking reason, they hate him. They do not want to give him the title shot. And I think it's because of his fight with Jan Blachowicz, that draw that they had, where he just did not. I feel like if he would have just pressed more on the gas tank, bit down more on his mouthpiece, I think it would have been a little bit of a different result. And what fight was? I think it was his fight with Thiago Santos as well, where he just didn't really take chances. And I really feel like the only reason why he won that fight was because Thiago Santos also didn't take any chances. Whatever he did, it seemed like he was having more success on Ankalaev, but he was just more inactive than Ankalaev was. In this fight here with Rakić, too, it's I can see it being just an absolute slobber knocker, back and forth, or it can be one of the craziest clinch battles against the cage that we've seen in a long time. And what I mean by crazy, I mean crazy boring. One of the worst fights that we're going to see in a long time. Because I've seen Rakić, he just kind of just hangs out sometimes. He just accepts these dominant positions. Well, he just kind of bullies these guys against the fence. The fight that he had with Anthony Smith, yeah, he went out there and dominated all 15 minutes, but it's even though he dominated that fight, it's he kind of played it safe. Didn't take too many risks. And Ankalaev is guilty of that in a lot of his own fights. So in this fight, we have the recipe for a boring-ass fucking fight against two very dangerous opponents. But we can also get an absolute instant classic. So, that's kind of one of the reasons why I've been avoiding kind of making this video, because it's hard to predict. You have two guys who top of the world, but sometimes just don't always show up, or are just so dominant they don't really just take the risk of entertainment. And whose fault really is that? So, but as a winner, I think Ankalaev, if he just uses his wrestling, but I don't think he will. And Rakić, I don't know. I don't know who's going to win this fight, guys. I really don't. Ankalaev, it just seems so dominant. It's just I think that Ankalaev is going to go out there, and I just think that if he puts his foot on the gas, he could find some success. But yeah. See, this is exactly why I'm avoiding doing any sort of breakdown of this fight, because it's anytime I think about it, I really just see these guys canceling each other out. So yeah. Guys, that's going to do it for today. Mr. Mustache, MMA News out. Let's fucking go, fight fans.